A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome to what I consider to be the second last part of HJN Super Graphics. Because after all, tomorrow I intend on finishing this series. Until that happens though, I got two more contenders to work with, and for this one, we're going to do Street Fighter 6. Now, I've talked a bit about Street Fighter over the years. While it wasn't exactly as big in my life as Mortal Kombat, or even some other fighting games, and it's safe to say that Street Fighter was definitely one of the biggest that was ever put together. One-on-one fighting tournaments were at their best, possibly when Capcom was ruling over the tournaments of all franchises associated with fighting games. And while Capcom wasn't the only contender out there in the field to have fighting games, many others would come around, and some would fail badly. But the thing is that we've had a lot of success. Street Fighter 6 was more than just a game that had come out in 2023. Most of us tend to see it as a bit like an event, because unlike what we had seen with the last 5 Street Fighter titles, Street Fighter V and Street Fighter V Champion Edition, which had come out in 2020, I had tried that game out, and it was a unique story. After all, we had familiar characters like Ryu, Guile, Ken, Dhalsim, and of course, the infamous M. Bison. They all came together in this unique reunion, but Street Fighter 6 practically does not allow for all the characters that we've come to know about in the entirety of the game. The thing is, Street Fighter 6 actually does take place a while after the events of M. Bison's defeat in the last title, and it does open the door to an entire world of street fighting. Yeah, quite literally. Street Fighter 6 actually takes on the unique open world exploration functions which are commonly known in games today. If you ever played Skyrim, Dragon Ball Z, or a good variety of other titles over the years, it seems that exploration, open world, and RPG mechanics happen to be some of the biggest things that have allowed for successful titles over the years. Not only that, but they do allow the players to navigate through an abundance of different places, and a nice big world means you have hardly any chance of getting bored. Just look at all the time I spent with the Red Dead Redemption titles. Even the first game happened to be quite a big eye-opener when it came to the unique scenery and all of the budget's worth of functionality. Because looks weren't everything there, but it still was a unique touch that they put in across 2 main episodes in their whole franchise. But Street Fighter 6, it does center on your own playable character. Yeah, that's right. You actually get to create your own character. I, of course, named mine Bora, almost like Dora, but with a little more B in it. Whatever the case may be, though, the storyline does open up with a new Street Fighter character named Luke, and your in-game character and him engage in a bit of a duo. He encourages you to go out into the world and explore, and eventually you find Chun-Li. After learning about Luke's playing style and his fighting style, Chun-Li also allows for you to work with her fighting style, even harness some of her own special moves in combat. The thing is that with the last 5 Street Fighter titles, they were more on a linear story-driven baseline, with various characters that were all put around. But the thing is, Street Fighter 6 does it a bit differently, in which it allows your own in-game character with the RPG and open world elements to all blend together and create a unique adventure where you get to come across all different fighters from the last 5 Street Fighter titles, including more familiar characters. Not only that, but you also get the elements of traveling between different countries. Yeah, basically, Japan ain't enough for you, and with such characters in mind. There's also the United States, there's also Russia, especially with the likes of Zangief. There's also England, where a few characters are also put in mind, and there's even a few characters in other select areas around the world. Yeah, you ever wanted to come across Blanca? Yeah, this would pretty much mean that the first time ever for a while, Blanca has made his way back into the main Street Fighter series. And man, I'd say in this instance he's probably at his best since the older Street Fighter titles, which is definitely saying a lot, but you definitely ought to try it yourself. Anyways, though, the main goal for you, the player, of course, is to make it to the tournament that is being held in the city. This tournament in particular is going to pit you up against dozens of different foes, many of which were more original characters made for this new installment in the series. And it's quite common that with newer Street Fighter sequels, especially in the last 3 that we had gotten, 4, 5, and now 6, a lot of newer characters have been introduced. Kind of how in a similar regard to how many new Sonic games have come around and a lot of new characters have been introduced since then, there's also been the abundance of other franchises that have also allowed for large new additions to the character lineups. Star Wars, for instance, is insane with the character selection. But it just goes to show that the bigger a franchise gets, the more that they're going to want us to get involved with, and the more that they're going to want characters themselves to get involved with. More faces all around for them to work with. Whether they specialize in something in particular that's necessary, or they're just there for the exposition, it's all there, pretty much. Even Dragon Ball Sparking Zero happened to have its own unique lineup of characters, and practically every single character we've ever had in the franchise, ever, is all there. With the exception of a few, obviously, because they're not really as fighters. Anyways, though, Street Fighter 6 does allow for me to not only street fight against regular persons, in which I might as well talk about that for a brief moment while I'm at that topic in particular. The thing is that because this is RPG style, this does allow for your in-game character to interact with many, many people all over the city, and even select areas around the world in which that you're able to navigate. But the thing is that whenever you're in the city, here's the thing. Imagine living in the world where the big city is all about street fighting. And the thing is, if somebody comes up to you and challenges you to a street fight, and then cross-link arms like that, that's literally how they initiate a fight between one another. And then a crowd comes by to watch the spectacle unfold. Imagine living in that kind of world. Like if you get out of work after a hard, stressful day, and then somebody comes up to you and say, let's street fight. How exactly would that work by your time, or standards, that is? I mean, it's a whole different culture out there in Japan or whatnot, but how would that work in the States, or Canada, or France? Anything, really. I kind of want to know at this point. Would street fighting even be necessary? Is it just a form of sport, or is it just something that's perfectly fine? Even though there's always the risk of broken bones, lost teeth, bruises, gouged eyes, ripped ears, and hair. Yeah. I feel like that's just going to go a little overboard, but it's still a really big thing worth considering. Whatever the case may be, though, I will say that after some time has passed, after a good amount of quests have been completed, after a notable amount of people I've defeated, especially those that are coming from various rivals all over the network, as well as a good abundance of different characters lending me their different fighting styles and allowing for me to, in fact, make my fighting experience a little less difficult, there was the point where I eventually made my way over to the tournament, and well, I unfortunately ended up cutting off at that point. Yeah, wouldn't you know? Some of the enemies are so hard, some of the enemies are just spamming moves all over the place, even if it's a CPU opponent. It's insane, really. I feel like I've lost my way at that point. That's the thing about fighting games. Either I suck at it so bad, or it's just the fact that the new AI that they've integrated into these newer fighting games has just made it so difficult that you have no choice but to either persevere much further or just shut it off and walk away. Well, I guess we'll just have to see how that works out. But the thing is that Street Fighter 6 still is a unique piece. One that I feel like probably is better than Street Fighter 5 in many ways. But because of the difficult nature of this sort of game, even on the easiest difficulty, that's one frustrating factor that I might as well label in before others might jump in to the conversation at hand. Otherwise, Street Fighter 6 is still a noteworthy entry in the series, and I feel like that it was a well-deserved sequel, being that 3 years had passed since Street Fighter 5 came around. at least the Champion Edition, because otherwise that would have been 7 years after Street Fighter V came around, which was in 2016 at the time. But otherwise, with the RPG elements, open world mechanics, exploration, not just in the local area that you're in, but also you get to travel to other countries. You also get to purchase various clothes and decorate yourself, do various quests for others, earn items of all sorts that can help boost various stats, or replenish your health, stamina, etc. And with many other elements that are all worth adding up, it really does bring about probably one of the best new fighting games that we got. I feel like that Mortal Kombat 1, which is supposedly the remake of the original Mortal Kombat, that also came out as a PS5 game, would probably be another game worth talking about. But unfortunately, I've yet to obtain a copy. So I guess we'll just have to wait till some other time, maybe with the new upcoming video games that are so awesome. Well, we'll just have to work that out. Basically, that series probably is already out by this point, because at the time of recording this video, it's a little ways before that series is even around. Anyways though, Street Fighter 6, a good entry for what it is, and with all the new elements that they put in here, unlike with the other games, we'll just have to go ahead and roll with the good 8.0 out of 10.1. And that pretty much is where I'd say that's it for today. Though tune in tomorrow, I have one more game I will be talking about. So make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more.